Welcome you all to this Abaqus Python YouTube channel. So this is the lecture series on Abaqus Python scripting, learn with the concepts. So this is the second lecture, and in this lecture we will learn what is Abaqus object models. So let's get started. So first of all, in this lecture we will study what is Abaqus object model. Then we will study what are the different types of Abaqus object model available in the Abaqus CE. And next we will see each of these Abaqus object model one by one, and at the end of this lecture we will see how to use these different object models effectively. So first we will see what is the Abaqus object model. So in the last lecture we have seen that what is the object basically, and we know about the objects now. So let's see like what are the default Python objects that are available, built-in Python objects. So these are the some examples, right? We have integer as an object, we have list object, we have dictionary object, we have array object, we have float object, we have string object, right? And we have also seen that all these objects has some attributes and some methods. So if you know the attributes and methods of these objects, then at the end you will learn that what is the Python coding is all about. So you'll get to learn all this Python programming. So the basic fundamentals that you should know is, if any object that is given, you should know the attributes and methods so that you can use the particular object more efficiently. So similarly, now the Abaqus is integrated with Python, right? So what Abaqus has done is it has added multiple objects to the already existing Python objects. So these objects that Abaqus has added are very much specific to the Abaqus. That's why we separately name them as a Abaqus object. So just to differentiate from the Python objects, right? So let's take some examples. So here you can see some examples like field output is one object, frame is one object, step is one object, or ODB is an object. So other examples could be node, element, set object. Then we can have the datum point, datum plane. All these can call it as a object, right? And similar to the Python objects, so these objects also will have some attributes and methods. So what you basically need to do is you need to go to particular objects and learn what are the attributes for these objects and what are the methods of this object. If you know these things, then you understand what is this object, and you can use this object very much efficiently, right? So similarly, if you could learn most of the Abaqus objects, then you can totally understand and use this Abaqus Python scripting, right? So that is the main goal of our series, so just to get you familiar with this. Okay, one of the subtle differences between the Python object and Abaqus objects is, so in the Python object, you know, right, you can directly use this integer object. So you can directly create one integer assigned to some variable. Similarly, you can create some dictionary or list, right? So there is no interconnection. You can use these objects as a standalone, right, separately. So these objects are different from one another and also independent from one another, right? But here in Abaqus object case, these objects you cannot access directly. For example, if you want this field output object, right, you can directly cannot access this. So you cannot ask directly Abaqus saying that give me this particular field output, displacement field output or something. So there is some hierarchy that you have to follow. So for example, in this case, if you want some particular field output, then you have to specifically say that, okay, I want the field output from particular ODB, and from that ODB I want the field output for a particular step, and from that step I want the field output for a particular frame. So you can see there is some hierarchical order. So you can directly cannot access particular object. There is some hierarchy, right? So this hierarchy, in a sense, you can call it as a Abaqus object model. So this is the basic fundamentals that you require for understanding the Abaqus Python scripting. One thing I should tell you that you don't have to memorize this stuff, because you can always refer to the reference guide or user's guide as well. So I don't personally recommend you to memorize all this stuff. Once you start coding this or start using this Abaqus Python scripting, you will obviously get to know this. And in most of the cases, it's pretty much obvious actually. So now we understand the Abaqus object model. Now let's see what are the different types of Abaqus object model available. So in the Abaqus, you will basically find three types of Abaqus object model. So this categorization is done basically just to have particular characteristics in one object model. So basically in Abaqus we have three types of Abaqus object model. So first Abaqus object model is a session model. So in the session model, you can see we have ODBs, we have display groups, we have image related option, we have viewports, we have views, we have XY plots. So basically this session object is something related to the graphics or GUI related objects. So session is one object, and inside that we have multiple objects that are stored, right? So this is some hierarchy for this session object model. Next we have model database object model. So from the name itself you can say that this is something related to the model. So whenever we create some model in the Abaqus using modules that we have, right, part module, assembly module and all that stuff, if you are using that, then you are basically using this model database. So in the model database you have these models also. For example, interaction model you have, part model you have, load model you have. So all these objects, so here we will call these objects, but in the GUI you can basically refer these to modules, right, part module, load module, but here we refer these as an object because parts are some objects. So this is another type of object model. And the last object we have is output database object model. So until now we have seen some GUI related or graphics related object model. Then whenever you need to create some models, so related to that also we have one model. And after running your job, we create the output database, right? So related to that also we have one object model. So you can see all these three object models have some separate functionality. So if you are using some object model, then you can do some stuff. But if you want to use some, for example, if you want to do something with the graphics, for example, you want to rotate the model or change some view or something, then you have to obviously use this session object model. So if you want to do some changes in the model database, then obviously you have to use this model. For example, if you want to apply some load, right, then so how you'll approach is follow this hierarchy. So MDV, then models, then model, then you can access the load. So something like that you can understand from this. So basically these are the three types of Abaqus object model. Now going forward, we will see in detail what is this Abaqus object model and how we can use them. So first we will see the MDB, model database object, and the session object model. So how we can use it. So whenever you want to use any model database or session object model, you can use this in the CAE. You have to write this line in your script. So for example, if we have some script which does something related to the model database, then you will find that at the top of that script you will have this line to be written. So basically what it's doing is it's importing this Abaqus module we have seen in the brief in the last session, right? So model is like a bunch of methods written, and we can directly use those particular methods or functions. So basically you have to use this line to use this model database functionality and session database functionality. And next, in the model database you have these different objects, right? So part object, load object, material object, or so on. So these, to use this object, you have to import one more module. So you have to import this part module, material module, and so on. Okay, so as you can see, these are a many number of modules that we have in the Abaqus GUI, right? So this part module we have, load module we have, material module we have. So that are many modules, right? So to shorten this, we have some alternate method also. So you can directly use the CE models. So from CE models import start. So this line if you write, then all the modules, these sub objects from the model database object model, you can import it. And at the last, so while operating with these two object model, sometimes you may need some constants, so which are specifically written for the Abaqus actually. So in the Abaqus Python, we have one module, separate module, which contains all these constants. So if you want to use any constant, then you have to import these modules, Abaqus constant module. Okay, so here you can see there is a slight change in the syntax when we are importing some modules. So for example, when we are importing this sub object modules, part of module, material module, we were simply writing import and module name. But while importing this Abaqus module, we are writing like from Abaqus import start. So there is a slight difference and there is a slight inference you can get from this. So we will see in the upcoming sessions actually. So at this point you don't need to worry about these things. You just have to write these lines and that's all. You don't need to no need to understand all this stuff at this point. Obviously this is the lecture series we are conducting based to learn the concept. So going forward, obviously we will have look at this. So what does this mean, and how this is different. So this is about the model MDB and session object models. So this is how you have to use this. So in Abaqus you can use this ODB object model two ways. First one is the visualization namespace, using visualization namespace, and the other one is using the ODB access namespace. At this point, if you are not understanding this namespace word, don't worry about it. For simplicity, we can directly consider that namespace is something related to module. It's like we are talking about the visualization module, or we are talking about the ODB access module. It is as simple as that. Okay? So let's say if you want to use the visualization namespace or module to open some ODB, then what you have to do, first you have to import this. So import visualization. So then you can use this open ODB method to open any ODB or output database, right? So here in ODB access, so same thing, you have to import this ODB access module. So using the similar method, you can open the ODB file. So another difference is you can use this visualization model in the Abaqus CAE. So if you are running any script in the Abaqus CAE, then you can use this visualization or this line basically. But you can use this ODB access module outside Abaqus also. But this visualization module you cannot use outside Abaqus CAE. So outside Abaqus CAE means using this Abaqus Python command, right? In the last lecture we have seen, right, this Abaqus Python command, how it is useful. So basically this Abaqus Python command doesn't require any Abaqus license, right? So that means you can use this ODB access module outside Abaqus and do stuff with output database file. Another differences that we have is so visualization model, if you are using the Abaqus CAE, you can open multiple output database file at the same time. But here we have some limitation. In the last lecture also we have said that there are some limitation regarding this Abaqus Python command. So this is one of the limitation actually. So here you can open only one ODB at a time. Okay, and this difference we already seen, right? However, you can use this ODB access module inside the Abaqus CAE also, but the other way it is not possible. That means visualization module you cannot use outside the Abaqus. And while operating with the output database, so you need some Abaqus constants also, right? So same thing as we have shown in the previous slide, you have to use this module to use Abaqus constants. Now we will see one example. So for example, let's say that we want to access the mice stress. So we want to see or get the data of the mice stress. So how we can do that? As we know, we cannot directly ask Abaqus or write the code to get this mice data, right? So we have to follow some hierarchy order, right? And that's what we call it as a Abaqus object model. So here also you have to follow this Abaqus object model. So first you have to open the ODB, then you have to access the step, then you have to access the frames, then you have to access the field output, and from that field output you have to access the stress field output, then you can access from that the mice stress. So this is the Abaqus Python line you can write to get this mice stress. So first of all, let's say we have created this ODB object. So this ODB that here, right, it represents actually ODB object. So from this ODB object we have to extract the data that we want, that is the mice's data. Let's say we have the ODB object now we can use the steps attribute using the dot notation. If you are using this steps attribute, then what we will get, we will get the step object container. So what this means is this container, which is called as step object container, it stores all the steps available in that ODB. So from this container we can now access the particular step by using the key. We have to use this square brackets actually, and in this square bracket we have to mention this string value, I mean the name of that step. Okay, so at this point what we will get this step object. So this step object will correspond to the step 1 data from the ODB object. So this is the ODB object. From this ODB object we have now this step 1 data. So now going further, now we have to access the frames, right? Keep in mind this flow also. So at this point you can see the blue color. So this frames is nothing but the container. So here if you are using these frame attributes, so using the dot notation obviously, at this point what we will get the frame object container. Okay, so at this point we are here at this point. Okay, so what again it will contain all the frame data that is available in the particular step. Okay, and again if you want to get the particular frame data, so from this container again you have to use this square brackets and you have to give this particular index. So here there is some difference, right? You can see for the step we are giving the key, but for the frame we are giving the index. So this you will learn by the experience, and also you can use the Abaqus scripting guide also. Okay, so what type of information we have to provide to get particular object. So all this information that is available in the Abaqus scripting guide, so you can follow that also. Okay, so let's say at this point we have this frame object, right? Now from this frame object we have to get the field outputs. Okay, so what we are doing, using the dot notation, again we are using the field outputs attributes, and from that field output container we are using the stress. So we are accessing the stress data. Okay, now what we are doing here is we are using this get scalar field, and we are using here the parenthesis actually. So you can see there is a difference, right? Here we are using the square brackets and here we are using the parenthesis. Why this is? Because all this we have used, right? These steps, frames and field outputs, all these are the attributes. So till here what we are doing, we are just getting the data out of it. But now to get the one minus stress, what we are doing is we are using the method. So this is the method, and there is a convention that if you are using particular method, then you have to use this parenthesis to give the arguments to that function or to that method. Okay, you might ask that why we are using the method here. Can't we directly access this myStress data without using the method? So to answer that question is, in the output database it will have the tensor stress data. So that is like 6 components data you will have, and Abaqus doesn't calculate or doesn't store this one MySys or max principal or minimum principal stress data. So while showing you the result, it actually calculates values from that. So that's why we have to use this method. So what basically we are doing here is, from this tensor data of this field output, we are manipulating that data and calculating the MySys stress. So whenever we want to manipulate the attributes or data of a particular object, we have to use something called as methods. So same thing we are doing here, right? One of the key point here is, again we are using the dot notation, but we are using the parenthesis instead of square brackets to use the particular method. Okay, so at this point you have all the MySys field output data. Okay, at this point we understand what is object model and how to use it, and we have seen one example also. But you might say that we have a lot of objects to remember their attributes, right? So that's a lot of information. Here we don't actually need to remember all these things, because we have some built-in methods, built-in functions that you can use to get that information. So you don't have to remember all these things. Okay, so let's say we have this step object, and as in any object we have these attributes as well as we have some methods. Okay, so just for our example, let's say these are the attributes it has, and what this attribute really says that, so this is something data related to that object that is there, right? Okay, and what method refers that how you can manipulate this attribute and get some new data from it. Okay, so whenever you are using any methods, basically you are manipulating or changing the data that is available as an attribute in that object. Okay, so how we will know that, okay, these are the attributes and these are the methods? Okay, so to know that, in the Abaqus we have some built-in methods specially developed to answer these questions. So there are 2 methods in the Abaqus Python: the double underscore members double underscore, and this double underscore methods double underscore. Okay, so using these 2 methods you can actually see what is attributes and what is methods. Okay, so how you will use this? So if you are using object dot, so what object means here is, let's take an example of ODB. So if you are writing ODB dot members, then you will get the attributes for that ODB object. And the next one is methods. So again you have to use this object dot methods double underscore methods double underscore. So same thing, if you are let's say ODB dot methods, if you are using, then you will get all the methods available for that object. Okay, so at any point if you stuck that, okay, what is next I can do with this object, then you can directly use these 2 methods and go ahead. So another option we have here is a print option. Use this function like print in the parenthesis, because it is a method, and then the object. So for example, if ODB is an object, then you can put the ODB here, then it will print some attributes and its value also. So it is little different than the members. In the members it will just show like what are the attributes, and in the methods it will just show like what are the methods available. But if you are printing that particular object, then it will print the attributes with their value also. You can see the values also. Okay, so first two are the specific to the Abaqus objects, so these two will not work on the Python object, and the third one is a standard print function available in the Python, so it will work for both. But this dir, right, so this is a built-in Python command that you can use to access all the methods and attributes available. So this dir command, it is same as like using the members and methods command, right? But there is more to that. So if you are using this dir command, then you will get to see all the built-in commands also. Okay, so this is very much useful in my opinion. Okay, so now we will see how to use this command. So let me switch to my Abaqus CE, and so first we have to open the ODB. So let me set the work directory. So the work directory is already set, and the ODB name is this beam model ODB. So let me just copy that. So to open that ODB, first we have to import the ODB access module. Obviously we can use visualization module as well. So import that, then we can use this open ODB command, and we have to give the ODB name with this argument path. So what it's saying, it's just opening the ODB in the read only mode, so that's not the issue for us. So the ODB has opened. You can see if I enter this ODB, then it shows this this is the ODB object now. That means now what I'll do is I'll open this ODB dot, then double underscore members. Okay, so now it's showing me some data. So these are the attributes for this ODB object. Next we're going to use the methods double underscore methods double underscore. So now it's showing this methods available for this. So let's use one of the attributes. So let's say I'm using the name as attribute. So how you can use this? Just use the dot and then the attribute name. So now it's printing the ODB name. So it's with the full name. It's showing me the ODB name. Okay. Now and let's use another function that we have seen. So I'll just try print this ODB object now. So let's see what it will print. So now you can see, so this is the dictionary format, so curly brackets you can see, and inside that, so it has this analysis title attribute. So if you go in the member, you can see this analysis type title attribute. So it's printing the value of this, so it is empty for now. And next one is the closed, so is the ODB is closed, so the because the ODB is open, so the value for that attribute is false. And let's see, so these steps you can see one of the attribute. So now what is the value of this attribute is a repository object. Okay, so now you can see if you print some Abaqus object, then it's printing the attributes and their respective values also. At the end we will print the dir. You will use the dir command. So let's see what it will give. So you can see it's giving the same as this methods, right? All this, but it's giving me some double underscore methods. So these methods are called the default methods or built-in methods for the any class. Okay, so we are not intended to use this methods, but still we can use it. So at the end what we'll do, we'll just use the, let's use this one of the methods now. So let's say we'll use this save Actually, for now we have not done anything changes to the ODB, so it will not do anything as such, but we will use this method. So here you can see we have used this curly braces, but for to use the attributes we don't have to use anything. Okay, so let's say we have saved this ODB. Okay, so why it's giving me same error? Because at the starting we have seen, right, we have opened the ODB in read only mode, so we cannot save any changes done in that ODB. Okay, so now let's use another attributes, steps, right? So okay, so now what it is giving me, it's giving me this step object container, right? So from this, if I want to use any step, then I can use this tab, so it will show me all the steps that it has. So here this is a simple analysis, so that's why we have only one step. Okay, now at the end we will use this close command. So in this when we use these methods, we have printed this close command also. So how we can use this ODB dot close. Okay, yeah, so now you can see there is no ODB left now, and if I try to access the ODB object, then it will show access error because it no longer exists, because we have closed that ODB. Okay, so that's how you can use these commands. So that's all from this lecture, and in the next session we will see that where to start. So when you're starting to learn Abaqus Python scripting, so the big question comes that where to start, right? So in this session we will see how we can start easily to get familiarized, and it will be easy to learn this Abaqus Python scripting. So in this session we will see that what is the journaling and reply files, and how you can use the command from these files to create your scripts. And after creating this script, sometimes you might need to refer some guides. So for Abaqus you have specific guides for the scripting also, so that guides are called Abaqus Python scripting. So we will study that also, how to use them effectively, and how to get started easily. So that's all from this session. So stay safe, be hungry to learn. See you, bye, and tata.